Hey there, Abiding fam, and welcome back to my channel. Many of you might know that this channel actually originally began as a booktube channel back when it was called The Scribbled Bookcase, and as I got more into journaling, it became my new passion, and it's sort of where my channel took off into, but I still have a great passion for books and reading. So in this video, I plan to share with you 9 books that I believe will help you to better yourself and become the best version of you so that you can live your own abiding life. So the first one I want to share with you is a book that you've heard me mention before if you've been here on my channel for a little while, and that is my all-time favorite book ever in the world, and that is Rules for a Night by Ethan Hawke. So this little gem of a book is the perfect gift book for anybody in your life. I really believe that everybody should read this book. Rules for a Knight is actually a letter written by a knight, and the knight is writing a letter to his children because he doesn't believe that he's going to survive a battle. And the letter is broken out into sections about different areas of one's life that is important for his children to know. So it's basically all of the life advice that this knight would have given his children if he was around to see them through the rest of their lives. But since he knows that the likelihood is that he's going to die in this battle, he writes this letter to his children, giving them all of the advice he wants to tell them about life. And it's broken down into different sections related to different areas of life. So for example, this one is gratitude. There's ones that are, cooperation, love is in here, faith, honesty. So just different areas of our life, giving really wise advice and using stories and parables to help his children understand how to be the best versions of themselves within those different areas. Truly, I can't recommend this book enough. I really believe everybody should read it. I love it. I read it every single year. It is the first book that I read to begin every new year because it has that much of an impact in just kind of recalibrating myself and just bringing me back to what's important in life. Can't recommend Rules for a Night enough. And it's so tiny and such a quick read. You can finish it in a day. So highly recommend that one. So make sure you get a copy and give one to a friend. You're not going to regret that. So the next book I want to recommend, I don't have a physical copy because I actually listened to this one on my phone using my Audible app. I cannot recommend the Audible app enough, and I must do a disclaimer here that I was once the person who absolutely hated the idea of audiobooks. I thought that they were all very boring to listen to. They either had somebody with a really boring voice that would go monotone and I couldn't pay attention, or it was the opposite and they tried too hard doing different characters' voices, and if it didn't match up with the voice I thought I wanted to hear in my head, then I immediately was turned off to it. And so for a very long time I totally dismissed audiobooks. And then I decided, because I have a longer commute, that I was going to give them another try. And especially now that I'm getting more into nonfiction books and reading, kind of self-help area books or just bettering yourself, hence this video, those types of books, it's become a new passion of mine listening to audiobooks. It's just such a great way to make my drives useful and not just me wasting time. I can instead be adding books to my reading list. And so many of the books that I'm going to be sharing with you, I actually listen to on Audible. And just so that you guys know, you actually get your first book free on Audible. I have a link down below. Use that link and you'll get your first book for free. And if you decide you don't like using Audible, you can always cancel after that and not be charged. But something tells me that, like me, after that first book, you're gonna want to keep on it. But that's a great way to just kind of test drive it, see if you like it, and that way you can try any of the books that I'm mentioning in this video for free using the Audible app. So highly recommend that. Like I said, I have it linked down below. But the first book I want to tell you about that I listened to on Audible to help better myself is called The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. So you might be able to tell from the title that this is, of course, a non-fiction book, and it is fascinating. I have never been just more absorbed into a non-fiction book that is just sharing stories and details than this book, because it's a really great mix of stories of places where habits just really worked, and then it's also a mix of actual like practical advice of just how do habits work, how does it work in your brain, how can you implement them better into your own life to do the things you want to do and stop doing the things you don't want to do. It covers all of that, and it uses these really fascinating stories to do so. Guys, just the Febreze chapter alone, listen to the chapter that talks all about how Febreze became a thing, and your mind is just going to be blown. I was just so interested in all of those examples that they use. So they talk about, in that case, how Febreze became a really marketable thing to use in people's homes, and actually turning the action of using Febreze for the average consumer into a habit that made that become a just best-selling product. So something that sounds like it shouldn't be interesting at all, like who cares about Febreze, but is absolutely fascinating the way that it's told in this book. So Charles Duhigg did an absolutely amazing job. Highly recommend it, and you gain so much insight into how habits work that you're going to be able to implement your habits that you want to use and accomplish in 2019 much better having read this book. On those same lines, I highly recommend for my third pick Atomic Habits by James Clear. He is kind of the front runner right now in the whole habit marketplace in terms of building good habits and breaking bad ones. And this is one of the best books I've ever read on habits, and he actually refers to The Power of Habits a lot, so I definitely recommend reading that one first and then picking up this one second. In this book, he is much more about the practicality of actually implementing those habits into your own life, and he gives a lot of great advice and tidbits that I haven't heard personally before, and I listen to a lot of those self-help videos and all that talk about habits, and so it's a lot of the same advice over and over again, and you kind of just get bored with it. Like, yeah, I know that's how habits work. I need to give myself a reward. Okay. But this book is really good about kind of breaking that mold and sharing ways to implement habits in a really unique way that totally seems doable as well. So I've already started implementing some ideas from this book, and I've noticed a significant difference, and I think that it's going to really help you as well. And he also has a lot of charts in here for you to fill out and use, and there's also a website that he has that can accompany the book that would be really useful as well as you're trying to better yourself and implement better habits into your life, or potentially be breaking bad habits that you don't want to hang on to any longer. So definitely recommend that one. So another book that I found extremely useful and helpful in helping me to just get things done and better my productivity and better myself in terms of accomplishing my goals and getting to do the things that I want to do, like working on my book or journaling, is the book Finish, Give Yourself the Gift of Done by Jon Acuff. And this one, I believe, is narrated as well by the author. So that's something I really enjoy about using nonfiction audiobooks as well, is almost always they're narrated by the person who wrote them too. And so it just makes it a really authentic experience. I feel like I have a friend sitting in the car with me telling me about, you know, their thoughts and explaining their field to me and just helping me in my life. And you can hear the inflections that they would put on the different words that they put to paper. So it's just a really cool process to be listening to those books when they're narrated by the person who wrote them. And Finish by Jon Acuff is an example of that. And in that book, as you can tell from the title, the whole idea is that he is trying to help you accomplish the things you want to do. So if your idea of bettering yourself is actually getting all of those goals done that you said that you want to do, maybe you're trying to write a book, maybe you want to do a marathon this year, whatever it is you want to accomplish in 2019, I guarantee you that Jon Acuff's advice in that book, Finish, is going to help you get them done. So I really can't recommend that one enough. It's one, motivational, two, it just actually has practical advice. I feel like so often I watch YouTube videos about productivity or I read books and it's just the same advice over and over again that you've all heard before, and so it's not actually doing anything for you. But this isn't beating a dead horse. It's actually providing new advice that's really helpful. So definitely recommend Finish by Jon Acuff. So the next two books that I have to recommend with you are sort of tied together because they are not by the same author exactly, but by a duo who works together. And that is The Road Back to You and The Path Between Us. And if you recognize those titles, then you probably already are very aware of what the Enneagram is. But really quick, if you're not aware of the Enneagram is basically a personality test that has very long historical kind of Christian roots, which is one of the reasons I really like it. And the idea of the Enneagram is that you fall into a scale when it comes to personality. So there are 9 different personality types, but you might lean towards another number that would be considered your wing. And there also are ways how in a stressful situation you might revert to another number, but if you're really secure in a situation you might revert to a different number. And so it's a much more fluid and flexible personality test system that I think really helps to just explain who you are as a person. I know for me personally, I'm a 1, by the way, so if you are into Enneagrams, let me know your number down below, but I am definitely a 1 wing 2. And reading The Road Back to You, which is all about the Enneagram and those different numbers, really helped to just explain to myself things about my personality and the things that make me tick, or the things I tend to do, or the things I get upset about, the why of that. So why do I react to certain things in that way? And it helps me to know that a lot of it comes down to my personality. But what I love about the Enneagram is it doesn't make that personality test an excuse. It's not, oh, well, that's just because I'm a 1, I can't help it. Because you're aware of those tendencies, the idea of the Enneagram is that it's trying to help you become the best version of yourself within that personality. So within the Enneagram, in your number, there are healthy versions of your number and there are unhealthy versions of that number. And if you guys are interested in this, I'm thinking about doing some Enneagram stuff in my bullet journal. So if that interests you, let me know in the comments if you'd like me to talk more about what the Enneagram is, my number, and then also maybe do some bullet journal spreads related to that. Let me know in the comments if you would like to see that. But essentially, the idea is that within your number, you have healthy versions of yourself and unhealthy versions of yourself. And the Enneagram is designed to help you reach the healthiest version of you. And that is why I highly recommend this book, The Road Back to You by Ian Morgan Cron, because he is laying out the basics of all of the numbers so that you can first of all identify who you are in terms of the Enneagram system. And second of all, by identifying who you are, you can figure out, am I a healthy version of this number right now, or am I leaning towards some really unhealthy tendencies? And how can I make myself the best version of who I am? I'm sorry if you can hear doors and things in the background. My family is home and I'm just trying to get this video filmed for you guys. And so of course that means that you can probably hear things going on, but I'm just working with what I've got. I'm sorry, this is real life. And so the second Enneagram book that I want to recommend is called The Path Between Us, and that one is by Susanna Stabile. And this one is much more so about the Enneagram types of the people around you and in the relationships you have, because part of the Enneagram is that different numbers are going to interact in very different ways. And I personally feel like I have such a better understanding of the people in my life based on learning about their Enneagram number. You can learn a lot about someone when you really delve into their personality and try and understand them as a more rounded individual rather than just character traits you don't really like, or character traits you do like, and why that is. And so the way that this book helps you to become a better person is because it helps you to be better in your relationships. I feel like I am much more understanding and patient with the people in my life now that I know their personality numbers and how my number on the Enneagram kind of affects how I typically respond to their numbers. So some numbers are gonna get along a lot better on the Enneagram than others, just because some personalities really click and some clash. And so this book really helps to kind of explain why that is and how every number interacts with every other number. So I really highly recommend both of those books. They were so helpful to me in understanding who I am and who the people around me are, so that I can not only become the best version of myself, but I also can be more understanding of other people's journeys towards their best versions as well. So the next book I want to recommend is one that many of you probably have already heard of, or at least you've seen it in an airport or a local bookstore, and that is Girl, Wash Your Face by Rachel Hollis. This book is extremely popular right now, but I think it's for good reason. Rachel Hollis does an incredible job in this book of explaining lies that she has always believed about herself and just the truth that she has learned through experience and over time. And so in every chapter of this book, Rachel presents one lie that she used to believe about herself and then counters that through incredible storytelling, great writing, the truth that she learned. And she's so honest in it. She's really honest about mistakes that she made and just why those lies kind of manifested themselves and how she can combat them now that she has kind of realized the truth, and how sometimes learning the truth is a painful process and takes time. And she is a Christian and she really believes in giving yourself grace in that too. So I just loved this book, and I listened to this one on Audible as well. So whether you're using Audible or another audiobook service, I really recommend this one, especially in audiobook format, because she narrates it herself, and it is so entertaining because there's really funny parts and there's parts where it's just raw and honest, and it's great to hear all of that from her perspective and in her own voice. So definitely recommend Girl, Wash Your Face. I guarantee you that you're going to relate, especially women. You're going to relate to at least one of those lies that Rachel believed about herself, because a lot of them are lies that most of us women have believed about ourselves at some point. And in hearing how she kind of learned the truth, it kind of can be very revealing in your own life as well. And so for that reason, I think it's a great book to read to better yourself in 2019. Okay, so the last physical book that I have for you guys, this is number 8, and that is New Morning Mercies by Paul David Tripp. And this is a devotional book for any of my Christian viewers out there. But honestly, even if you're just kind of in a spiritual walk and you're still figuring things out, I really think you'll find a lot to appreciate about this book. But I loved his writing so much, and every day starts with a little kind of tidbit, because he actually took a lot of this book from his Twitter, where he used to put out just like a really short little kind of lesson of the day. And so he does that in this book. So for example, this one says, "Today you will celebrate that grace has made you part of God's great plan, or more in the places where you aren't getting your own way." And then he has a section where he talks about what he wrote there. And then at the end, he usually ends it with a few questions, and then always provides a scripture at the end for further encouragement and study. So I've really been enjoying this devotional. I've been reading it every single day, either in the morning, which I guess New Morning Mercies, it's more so meant for them, but a lot of times I read it at night when I get home after work, and it's just been really uplifting for me and just helps me to recenter my heart and just get back into my Bible by using those for further study and encouragement sections as well. And I have just felt myself becoming a better person from reading this, because it's making me focus more on God. And to me, that is the best way that we can become the best versions of ourselves. So I really highly recommend this devotional. I am somebody who is very, very picky with my devotionals. I think that sometimes devotionals can be very flowery or vague, and they just, you know, because they're trying to hit all of the areas that somebody might experience so that everybody can relate to it. And I think he balances that very well in this book of, you know, keeping it vague, but also making it so that you really feel the applicability in your own life. And he also is really good at mixing in his own stories, but it's not a book about him, if that makes sense, right? You can read yourself into all of the different devotionals. So this has been my favorite devotional that I've ever read. I'm really enjoying it this year. And so I highly recommend New Morning Mercies to better yourself in 2019. All right, guys, so the final book I'm going to recommend for you to read in 2019 to better yourself is a book that I'm actually currently reading, and that is Present Over Perfect by Shauna Niequist. I hope that I said that last name right. I'm not sure. But this book has been so uplifting to me, especially because I am someone who really, really struggles with perfection. Back to the whole Enneagram thing, that is like the number one struggle of a 1, is that you struggle with perfection. And Shauna in this book is the same way. She talks a lot about how she just kind of has surrounded herself with busyness and chaos and planning and trying to get all of these things done, and she's learning over time to appreciate quiet, to appreciate slowness, to just be present over perfect. And so this book has been really important for me to be reading, and I'm actually doing a whole video series that she produced as well with my small group. So if you have a small group, I highly recommend that you look into that. Along with this book, she has a whole video series, so you can both be reading the book and doing that with your life group or small group as well. And it's just has great conversation starters, and wow, I've just never related so much to a book before and saw myself so much in another author's journey. So this book has been really empowering to me, but mostly because it's making me vulnerable and making me admit issues within my own life that it was very easy before reading this book to just kind of tuck under the carpet and pretend don't exist when they do. And in fact, they are inhibiting me from being my best self. And so I have really gained a lot from reading this book. And I think that if you're anybody who struggles with perfection, with overloading your calendar, with trying to be busy and do all the things and be everything for everyone, then this book is really going to be something that I think will have a great impact on your life as well. All right, friends, so those are all of the books that I have to recommend to you to read in 2019 or any year, really, any time that you feel that you need a book to just get yourself back into a productive mindset, get yourself more acquainted with who you are as a person now so that you can become your better self, or just to understand some maybe issues that you're having in your life so that you can better address them. All of those things are covered by these books, and I think that you'll find a lot of wisdom in them, a lot of encouragement, and hopefully a lot of grace as well. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please be sure to give it a big thumbs up. And of course, join our abiding fam. All you have to do is subscribe, so hit that little button to join our family here for more videos like this, as well as lots of journaling content as well, if that is something that interests you. And I will look forward to seeing you all in my next video. Until then, I hope your day is full of abiding joy, love, and of course, creativity.